Okay, HDFS 492 students, welcome to this short lecture material on the timetable. So you can see actually that the timetable still follows all the sections that we've been doing so far, so it comes right after methods. And again, you'll do your proposal checklist, marking off each of these items with a minimum of 2 students. So I'll be walking through the timetable requirements, some of these more in depth, but some things to note here. The timetable is essentially a timeline of what you just described in your methods. So you're almost repeating what's in the methods, but in a shorter time chronological format with bullet points. So and you should organize this over a 12-month period, because we're going to presume that that's how you're going to get grant funding, is for 1 year. So you organize it from the very start of the time that you get funding until 1 year later, and you get to decide the month that you start. Okay, so whatever makes the most sense for your program. And so you'll list the date range up at the top. Again, it's all in bullet point format. You'll see that it's structured. Each bullet point is the name of a staff member that you've described in the method section and what they're doing. It's really important that this is consistent with the method section. So we need to have all the same titles, all the same program staff that have been discussed in methods should also be mentioned somewhere in the timetable, and vice versa. So it should all match up. And so you're basically going to include the timing and staff member for a variety of tasks that you see listed here. Hiring, preparing and training, getting training organized, right? Getting things set up, marketing, recruiting, registering, actually delivering the program, doing the pre and post, and then compiling the evaluation data. So if you're just thinking it through, for example, in a 12-month program, you definitely want to give yourself time. You won't be able to start the program, during month 2, right? You need a few months to just get your staff hired and trained and get prepared. And then you might run your program several times. But again, don't be overly ambitious on this, right? You don't want to be running programs, between, for example, Thanksgiving and Christmas. You don't want to run it so much that you can't get decent attendance. And then giving yourself some time to evaluate and wrap up. So here's a sample timetable, and you'll notice that each of these bullet points follows this format. A staff member takes this action. And so if you read this through, right, the very first part is the agency director identifying the program coordinator. This could be, as we've talked about, among existing staff. You don't have to be hired externally. And then, maybe there's something else happening as well during that month. Then the program coordinator, what do they do? And then who do they train? And then who attends training, right? And those kinds of preparations. You can see that we listed all of the program delivery within, a 9-month period or 8-month period. So we didn't keep spelling it out over and over, but you could if you want. And then the evaluation at the end. Okay, so the 2 sections that you really want to pay attention to when you're writing your timetable is the target population and the methods section. So in target population, you talked about recruitment strategies. That's going to be reflected here in the timetable. And then obviously in the methods, you introduced all your staff members and what their roles are, and that's also going to be reflected here in the timetable. And so you want to keep everything consistent in terms of titles and details. It all should match up. So anyone who is mentioned, any staff member mentioned in the methods should also be in the target population and vice versa. Let's just review concise writing. So here's a bullet point from a student's proposal. Beginning in May, the program facilitator will provide students with a post-assessment to address any growth from their pre-assessment earlier in the year. That could, even though that's nice, it could be written a lot more succinctly. Program facilitator will administer post assessments to students. Okay, all the usual resources here, and again, really pay attention to what you have written for the target population and methods sections. And if you've made changes, then feel free to resubmit those sections so that when I compare your timetable with those two sections, it'll all match up. So if you need to resubmit them, just resubmit them in their drop boxes, the target population and the methods drop boxes. All right, just some Florida live oaks to close this out. Feel free to reach out if I can be helpful.